Howdy, folks. I'm here on Christmas night, actually, because the KOE book has just dropped. And I figure I've got nothing else to do at the moment. I was going to potentially do a video with Bobo, but it didn't really work out timing-wise for us. So I'm here. Might as well have a look at it and see what I think. But I haven't really gone through it. I had a sort of brief skim a couple of hours ago, and I've seen one of the earlier books. Like, some things have changed since then, so I've got a bit of an idea on some things, but I haven't really reviewed it massively, to be honest. But that's what we're here to do, so we'll do that together. Okay, so I'm just going to go through like page by page, and we'll see what happens. There might be a better way to jump back and forth, but I haven't figured out to do that, so I'm not gonna. First up, every army in the book, every unit in the book has the blessing, it looks like, which pretty much, I think based on my reading of this, it's basically just like the Demons book, where it includes their Aegis in the unit profile, so it probably won't be the same for every unit. And apparently, if they're fleeing, they don't get an Aegis save, so cool. Face Spirit, looks like basically makes them sort of like half, like supernal without the losing wounds when you lose combat. Gallantry, I think that's just, yeah, so list restriction of, like, I assume this is probably their flyers category, basically, but rather than being like a points percentage, it's, you've got one gallantry point per every 650 army points, which, rounding fractions up. Weird that it's 1 per 650 when that's not divisible, like 4,500 isn't divisible by that, but I guess with rounding fractions of, I don't know, whatever. Apparently, in a 4,500 point army, you can get 7 gallantry points. So, cool. Knight Banneret. A little bit like the warrior favored champion. So, +1 health point, but they can take a they are a banner, basically, and they can take a banner enchantment. And they can be selected as the model for refusing a duel. So, it'll be interesting to see if that's all champions are that, or if... Oh, they wouldn't be, because it's got a limit here. So you can only upgrade some champions to be like a mini character. Ordos Minister. Gains +1 health point, maximum of 3. And you raise a health point at the start of each friendly magic phase. Can't raise champions, and you can't target a unit more than once. The unit that recovered or raised health points this way cannot be targeted by Phantom Youth. Okay, so, yeah, basically... Auto Minister, I don't know what that'll go on, but we'll find out, will help a unit raise, or a model? Looks like it'll be on a model. Maybe it's like the Knight Banneret and it'll be on a champion. And I'm pretty sure I know that because I've seen that one already. But yeah, basically, start of the magic phase, doesn't look like there's a restriction in terms of like you don't have to use Veil tokens or anything, but you just get to raise a unit. Which is interesting. It's capped pretty heavily on some things, and it's 0 to 2. And it doesn't work with the attribute from Druidism, but it does work by the looks of it with Summer Growth. Cool. I don't know. We'll see how it affects things. I mean, raising models in KOE is pretty strong, so that could be a pretty strong rule, depending on how like the rest of the book goes. I've seen Horizons on like a spoiler, and I think when I saw an earlier version of the book, had some arguments on the forum about them, basically. So basically what these are is your army can generate a number of Horizons, and I think that Hereditary gives you extra ones. So at the start of the game, you might have 6, and then every time you cast the Hereditary, I think gives you 2 more. And they're basically something that you activate at the start of any phase, and you can get one of the bonuses below. it has to be within 8 inches of one of your models with Horizon. But I'm pretty sure there's an Horizon 0 unit, so not necessarily one that's actually giving you any Horizons, but there might be other units around that, even if they're not contributing to your Horizon pool, you can measure that 8 inches from. Effects are basically, so +1 to hit, +1 Aegis, or Fear, and if they already have Fear, it'll go to Terror. Several instances of an effect are not cumulative, and a single unit can only be targeted with 1 Horizon per phase, unless specifically stated otherwise. And the effects last until the end of the phase. So these effects all, to me, seem pretty minor. I mean, I guess it somewhat depends on how difficult they are to get. But these are all sort of like half a spell effect, I think. Because like there are spells in like Divination that give you rerolls to hit, which is just better than +1 to hit. I think there are some instances where +1 might be the same as rerolls, but generally I'm pretty sure rerolls is just better. Aegis +1 is sort of like Hand of Glory, which is possibly the worst spell of occultism. And this is... Well, I mean, I guess it is balanced out by the fact that, by the sounds of it, most units in the book will have an Aegis save, so... it could be pretty handy, but it's not huge to give +1 Aegis to something most of the time, I don't think. And Fear is like... I guess it's okay, because Fear is situationally very useful. And Terror could be as well. Like, you could do a little bit of, like, when the opportunity arises, do a little bit of terror bombing with this. So it's interesting, but I think that Fear is probably going to be the one that you use least. That doesn't make it necessarily bad, in my opinion, because it is another utility, even if it's a utility that's used 5% of the time when the other ones are both used like 45% and 50%. I think it could still be... It's handy to have there, because I personally, as a guy who uses the Beast Herds Hereditary a lot, like, think that Fear can, in the right situation, be pretty significant. So, my issue with this... So I don't think these are all that strong, but I really, really fucking hate the fact that it's usable. What does it say? What does it say? At the start of any phase or round of combat. So, when I am declaring charges, my opponent doesn't have to have already declared which of his units are buffed up. When you cast a spell on a unit that isn't in... Like, if you cast Spectral Blades on a unit that isn't in combat because you've failed to charge with them and they've been pushed out a bit too far, so you're like, I know that if I don't buff them, I'm going to get charged, I'm going to lose. So I'm going to buff them, and that means that if things charge them, I've still got a good chance, or maybe I win instead. With this, you don't have to do that. With this, I, as the opponent, still have to look at all those units and go, cool, what are my potential charges here? Which one of them are in range of Horizons? And would an Horizon change the combat? So, particularly with Beast Herds, there's a lot of instances where Fear could mean that I can't risk going in because it's too risky, right? The effects aren't huge, so maybe they're not really enough to be a tipping point. Like, I admit that basically, if I've got a combat where +1 to hit changes it so that it becomes too risky for me, it's probably a situation where I'm 50-50 or so about charging in without the +1 to hit. So it's sort of like, because they're not enormous effects, it's sort of like, well, how much are they actually going to impact the combat? Like, I can see the fact that it's sort of not going to be that important, but at the same time, this is a long special rule, and I know for a fact that there are units with Horizon to generate them. The Hereditary is based around Horizons, and it's either a situation where they're not really very fucking good, and you might as well not use them. Like, I mean, you're getting them for free, basically, I think, with some models anyway, so you can use them, but it's almost like you might as well, like, they don't mean enough that it's worth the complexity that you've added to the book. Or, on the other hand, if they are strong enough in the context of the book, the fact that you can activate them at the start of any phase just fucks over combat armies. Like, I've seen a lot of justification of people going like, oh, but there's like lots of counterplay because you can make the KoE player use them in your shooting or your magic phase. And then it's like, okay, like that might well be balanced because the game is basically a shooting game. Well, not so much shooting as range magic damage. But for people like me, and I know there are other people like me, I don't know what proportion of the player base it is, but there are people like me who go like, in lieu of getting my most competitive list on the table, I'm going to take a list that kills shit in combat and wins in combat. And the start of any phase activation just shits me because it's like the High One Elf Hereditary, where I sit there and I go like, oh shit, you got that spell off? Well, these 3 combats that I wanted to charge into, I either have to declare all 3 and admit that, and I will clarify, this is assuming all the combats are within a kind of like close win or lose range. But I now have to look at these 3 combats and go, cool, all of them before you got that spell off, I would have declared a charge into. Now you've got that spell off, and if I declare all 3, and assuming I make all 3, the spell's going to make me lose 1. I'll still win 2, but losing 1 charge on your face is basically fucking game losing. So generally, in that situation, you go, cool, these ones are all too close, I'm not going to charge at all. Whereas any normal spell would go, cool, I've buffed up one of these units, and I would go, alright, well, I'm not going to charge that unit anymore, I'm going to charge these other 2 instead, because I'm still going to get value out of the fact that I've outpositioned you. You haven't just fucking jammed through this stupid spell that means that now I can't charge anything and you get to shoot me with your fucking Sea Guard and bolt throwers for another whole fucking round of combat. You might be able to tell I'm a little bit salty on High Elves just all the time. Doesn't take much to tip me over. And this gives me strong impressions of that, where it's just like, cool, what you're doing by giving the activation as the start of any phase is, sure, you're making things like Aegis +1 less powerful because it doesn't last a whole turn, but by making it at the start of any phase, you're disincentivizing me to charge because I need to have that little bit extra of overwhelming force that I have when I outposition you. So I fucking hate it. We'll see if it's a problem, but activations like that I really don't enjoy. Okay, Sainted. One of a kind, can't be BSB. So they gain +1 to Horizons. I assume that means that if they didn't have any before, they had 1. They gain Fearless, +1 attack, offensive skill, defensive skill, discipline set to 9, extra special item allowance, always under the effects of all of the Horizons. That's pretty cool. I don't know if that works. So they're always under the effects of the Horizons. This does not prevent the model's unit from being the target of an Horizon. Okay. But so several instances of an effect on the same model are not cumulative, and the single unit can only be the target. Cool. So I'm pretty sure, because the instances are not cumulative, that this model has the Horizons effects, specifically. It doesn't have +1 to hit, it has Holy Strike, which grants +1 to hit. So I think that means if you've got a character with Sainted in a unit, and you grant that unit Holy Strike, the unit gains +1 to hit, but the character doesn't gain +2 to hit, so it would stay with its +1 to hit. I'm pretty sure that's what that would mean. That's definitely the way I'd rule it if I was TO. Because, it's model's a unit. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Cool, so that's sort of just a souping up one character, which is probably pretty in line with the army flavor. I expect there to be some strong character combinations here. Okay. So personal protections, courage gives +1 Aegis, only used against wounds where you don't get an armor save. Okay, pretty cool. Units with more than half of models with courage, ignore friendly units consisting entirely of models with ordeal for the purposes of panic test. This almost sounds like this is the knight rule. And ordeal will be the peasant rule, perhaps. Honesty. Model gains +1 Aegis against magical attacks. Cool. Ordeal, the model gains +1 Aegis. Interesting. They're all just +1 Aegis against different things. It must be engaged in the same combat as at least one other friendly unit containing... Yeah, one or more models with courage or honesty. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be like a peasant thing. And this is to help the peasants fight with the knight units and not just bleed combat res. So, attack attributes, lance formation, fight an extra rank, sporting attacks increased by 1. If more than half of them have lance formation, the unit is 3 or 4 models wide. It counts as being in line formation and only needs to be 3 models wide in order to form full ranks. So, line formation would mean that it doesn't gain rank bonus. And you don't get a choice in that. Yeah, so interestingly, if you're 3 or 4 models wide, you're getting basically fight in 4 ranks because you've already got fight in extra rank. And you're still like counting as the number of ranks that you have or whatever, but you don't get your combat res. So it looks like static res has decreased. Well, you've still got the Bannerets, which maybe is stackable. Static is probably reduced, but it's probably not completely gone because you've maybe got extra banners and shit in units. Bastard Sword, +1 strength, and it can be used with a spear or a light lance. All rank and file multiple use the same way. So basically this is the same as before, except before it was a great weapon. So you've still got the alternate ways of using it, but you've got +1 strength hand weapon rather than a great weapon. I'm pretty sure they were great weapons before. Yeah, so Hereditary is just gaining Horizon tokens. So Knightly Principles. I don't know what they used to be called, but the upgrades to your character, like combat characters, I think. There's one which is well located in the front arc. Model gains devastating charge +2 advance. And while engaged with an enemy's front face, multiple gains. Oh, +2 attack, not advance. Yeah, okay. So basically, boost your charge range when you're charging things in the front, and when you're when you're engaged in the front, you get +2 attacks. Whatever. So Justice, whenever another model in the model's unit suffers an unsaved wound due to an enemy melee attack, the model part must perform a single close combat attack at agility step 0. Initiative step 0, I should say. If this is not possible, it's ignored. Number of bonus attacks can never be higher than 3. Okay, so basically every time you're killing guys around him, he's whacking you back. Cool. Valor, Fearless, and you gain multi-wounds +2 against Fear. Horizons aren't universal, are they? One friendly, okay. So you can't give an enemy unit Fear just to get multi-wounds against them. Which would have been interesting if you could. Excellence. Jewels issued by the model must be accepted, unless the champion accepts first. In addition, while fighting the jewel, the model's close combat attacks gain +2 AP. Cool. Faith. Model's units target an horizon. Add 1 horizon. So basically, when you've got Faith, your horizon, you're targeting that... Oh, only melee phase. But when you target that model in the melee phase, or the model's unit, it basically doesn't cost you an horizon. And you can get extra auto ministers. Forbearance, you gain distracting, is interest rate, and it cannot be used in the first round of combat. Okay. Generosity, commanding presence, only models with ordeal, probably peasants. In addition, you get extra knight bannerets. Cool. Heroic traits. If I know this correctly, this is for like the peasant character. So I don't think this is on your knight characters, this is on the peasant characters, I think. We'll confirm that when we get down to there. They get a witchcraft adept, which I guess that kind of makes sense. There's a lot. Warriors don't have it, but ID have it, demons have it, dark elves have it, and Verminstorm have it. A lot of these armies seem like... I mean, most of those armies already had witchcraft, but I feel like there are going to be more people complaining about witchcraft adept. Because, like, an adept of witchcraft is really just like a, hey, you have shooting? Fuck you. So, I feel like Dwarves are going to be really unhappy about that. But, fuck him. Cleric, the model gains Honesty, Auto Minister, and Horizon 1 and loses Ordeal. So basically you don't have the peasant things, but you become a bit of a, not really a caster, I guess an Horizon caster. You raise some guys, and Honesty is that middle one, which was +1 Aegis against magical attacks, I think. Bannerman, BSB, and +1 attack. Troubadour, March to the Beat, Wizard Apprentice that chooses Div. Okay. Castellan, +1 attack, +1 offense, +1 defense, Bastard Sword, and they must purchase 1 Knightly Principle. That's pretty cool. So you basically turn your peasant into a knight. If I'm right that these are peasant things. Divine Judgment is a lance upgrade. Gives you multi-wounds, +1 strength and AP on the charge. That's it, alright. Fear, +1 strength and AP. A lot of fear in this book. Okay. Tristan's Resolve, I think it's the same as before. +1 attack. I don't know if it had +1 attack before. I feel like you were +1 strength before. I feel like you were strength 5. Anyway, you're still breaking a weapon with Tristan's Resolve. Uther's Metal, with the wield. So attacks are magical. If the wielder is charging and not fighting a duel, it must nominate a single enemy unit engaged with the wielder's front facing when allocating close combat attacks with this weapon. In the same initiative step, the wielder inflicts 1 hit with area attack, 1/5, strength 6. So basically, on the charge, you get to shoot a bolt thrower through the unit. Cool. Pre-retched armor, +1 armor, must reroll failed, and you can never better than a 5-up Aegis. Alright. Cavalry models without towering presence. Okay, so this can't go on your hippogriffs, but you've got something that gives you +2 armor. Aura Flame, Fear I think is the same, can't benefit from Rally Around the Flag. I think that's just the same as Aura Flame always was. Relic Shroud, you get Breath of... So you can cast the Hereditary as a bound spell to get Horizons. Aspirin's Elan. Close combat attacks made with lances by the bearer's unit gain +2 strength and +2 AP in the first round of combat if the following conditions are met. The bearer's unit is only engaged in its front facing. The bearer's unit is not charging. The bearer's unit failed the charge in its previous charge phase. So basically, you declare a charge and you fail and they counter-charge you. As long as it's all in the front, you get to count as charging, basically. You wouldn't get the other bonuses. So anything that's devastating charge you wouldn't get. But, yeah. Seems alright. I wonder if they could word that like the high elf one, so you get that. I guess they're probably trying to keep in the fact that with a weapon that's like multi-wounds D3, you don't want to be able to uncouple that from having to charge. Yeah, interesting. Banner of Roland, the same. It's just +1 Aegis against ranged, and you can't stand to shoot against them. Cool. Castellan's Crest, bearer adds +1 to its side combat score if the unit has at least 3 full ranks. So a little bit more static res, because without ranks, maybe they're lacking that. Black Knight's Tabard. So it's the same as it used to be. Cool. Looks cheaper than it used to be. I don't know. Sacred Chalice. Bearer gains MR1 when the bearer's unit is the target of an enemy casting attempt, including attribute spells. The bearer's owner gains 1 Veil token. So you get magic res, and every time someone does try to target your unit, you're gaining extra Veil tokens. Cool. Seems not that important, but pretty cheap. Damsel. So Beloved, it's basically just the same, I think. It's got an interesting Wizard Adept, Wizard Master breakdown here. Maybe that's indicative of something that's going to come in the end of year update. I don't know. Maybe KoE is just different for everything. We'll find out. It's got a bunch of steed options. I wonder which one of them is the normal one. We'll find out when we get to mounts, but I feel like Heraldic Steed, or I feel like it's Destria, something, whatever that is pronounced. or however that is pronounced, I should say. Face Steed, cool. I don't really know what most of these things are, but like Pegasus, Unicorn, something, something, something. Probably magic-y. You can give her Sainted. Isn't Sainted like extra magic item allowance and extra attacks and shit? Oh, it's probably just cheaper on her, I guess. So it costs 50. I don't know. Okay. And she's got an Horizon. An Equitaine Lord. So let me just see. So Sainted. Oh, it's got a cannot be taken by BSB. Yeah, and it's got a higher point value for him because it's worth more. That makes sense. Let me just see. Sainted cannot be taken by BSB. Weird that they would have that there, and then they would duplicate that clause with that. And that's probably a double up, and they changed how they wanted to do it. He just looks the same. A 4 attack, strength 4 lord. You can make him a paladin. Okay, I'm weird. I still don't think you need it there. But well, paladin can't be taken by BSB, which also makes them not a leader. Gives them horizons, gives them divine attacks. Also gives divine attacks to their mount, which is cool. Yeah, otherwise it's pretty normal. Folk hero. So this is the guy with traits of a hero. So, which is what we looked at earlier, which can be like the witchcraft wizard. And he's super cheap. He's got a few there's a lot of mount upgrades on all these guys. You can also make him Sainted, which is pretty cool. And he's not a leader, so you could actually have a peasant leading your army, which is pretty cool, I think. He's got Trait of Ordeal. Okay. Destroyer, so this is the regular warhorse. Heraldic Steed is fly 10. Can you get that on everything? Probably not on him. Yeah, so the Equitanian Lord can't get the fly 10 mount. Has Vanguard. This is a super quick dude. Hard target. Is he expensive? Not really. God. Div's not really good enough at magic to make that a good option for you, is it? Magic damage, I mean. Not really. Yeah, if you had like mainly occultism you'd want. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so it's probably not as good on the damsel. Because you don't have that mounted damage platform. But it could be pretty interesting just to give a couple of folk heroes. So you must choose at least one. You can take up to 2 different heroic traits, and they all cost points. So it's 125 flat, but the minimum, and I think they're 1 per army. No, you can duplicate them. I assume, because these ones are all one of a kind, and these ones are not. I assume you can duplicate them. You just go. Oh, then you must purchase one nightly, so it's not really the cheapest, is it? You don't. Do you want? It is not replicable. So you could take 2 troubadours. It's probably not worth it. It's probably I can't see any at the moment. By the way, this is going to be a long video. I'm just sitting here rambling as we go through. Haven't even gone through characters, so strap in. Actually, by the time you click on this, thinking about it, you'll be able to already see the length, but whatever. At 30 minutes in, that's when I'm giving you your warning. There's probably some pretty cool combos here. I could see folk heroes on Heraldic Steed being something that is actually pretty strong when the book comes out. Reared Unicorn. I think it's the same as before. Gives you Strider Forest. MR2 is fast itself. And can you ride that with one of these guys? Okay. So a Sainted folk hero could ride one. That might be interesting. Because normally unicorns have sort of been a bit out of place. I guess not so much in this army because of the Strider Forest, but at least in like Sylvan Elves where you don't want to put your wizard on one because there's no point. Okay, we'll see how it goes. Pegasus 50 by 50 now. It's just... Oh, so you count as Gallantry 2. Does Heraldic Beast... So that might be a restriction, the fact that you count for Gallantry. And, unlike a peasant guy, paying 2 Gallantry points for a Pegasus seems like it's probably not worth it, whereas on like a souped up Lord, it might be more valuable. Hippogriff also Gallantry 2. Excuse me. Engaged in combat, the model system test is subject to minimized roll. Okay, cool. Face Steed. This is the one we didn't... so Ghost Step is pretty cool. Fear, +1 Aegis. That's pretty cool. 4 HP. Depending on how much... it is a 50 by 75. Depending on how much it is, that could be pretty cool. I don't know why you would put your wizard on one of these. In fact, what can a wizard get on? Unicorn, Steed, Pegasus, Steed, and Destroyer. So I can see some uses for the Steed on the wizard, but about as rarely as you'd see a wizard on a side Skywill or something. It's probably pretty unlikely. Unicorn makes sense. The Destroyer makes sense. I can't see the reason for Pegasus Charger when you could take a Heraldic Steed, take less Gallantry points, like same armor bonus, hard target, you get to redeploy. I can't see why you'd pay for the Pegasus Charger. Smaller base size, yeah. I don't know. Ooh, Res 4. Res 4 is, I guess, the reason you pay for the Peg. Yeah, okay. But I think that's... So one, Heraldic Steed and Pegasus Charger is probably always going to be a better option to choose in terms of, like, which one of them you're going to choose on a wizard if you'd ever take one. I think they're going to be really rare anyway. And I have no idea where you'd ever put it on a Face Steed. No idea. Okay, Feudal Knights. These are just Knights of the Realm, I think. So they've got Courage, which was that first one. So +1 Aegis when they don't get an armor save. So yeah, these guys are pretty normal. They can take a Knight Banneret on the champion. Auto Sergeants can take that Cleric. Not Cleric upgrade, but yeah, basically a Cleric upgrade where they raise a guy. And you can measure horizons from them. They've got Honesty, so the against magical attacks one. Okay. And they're cheap as. So they're 8 models, so 220. That's like 35 points per model. No, less than that. Less than that, sorry, because 30 would be 240. I don't know. 28 or something. 28 and then 20 for extra. They're pretty cheap, but they kind of suck. Great weapons with hatred. I reckon these guys might be pretty good. Chuck great weapons on them. You've got strength 5. You've got... Ooh, you don't have lance formation. They might be good. But they'd have 10 attacks, basically. Or 11 attacks with a champ. 3 up armor save. Yeah, they might be good. I don't know. Lowborn levies, just peasants, I think. Yeah, looks like they're just peasants. That's why they got Ordeal. Right, it's all making sense. Archers, wow. Archers have more special rules on their profile than than anything else in core. They better be fucking important. So you can take longbow and expert bowman, which gives you accurate if you didn't move, or crossbows, and either of those units can take defensive stakes. Any models in base combat with more lowborn archers must take DT2 immediately after successfully charging. So your front rank would take DT tests against these guys if you took defensive stakes. If your opponent did. Okay. Probably not worth 25 points. Actually, it's DT2. That's pretty bad for high value models. and it gives like a 1 in 3 chance of killing the champion before it comes in. But the champion wouldn't be needed against archers. Yeah, we'll see. Special, men-at-arms. These guys are just on foot. Loses ordeal. So if you make them Knights Forlorn, they lose ordeal, they gain courage, which was the first ones that become not peasants, and they get a bastard sword. First round of combat, the enemy units in base conduct do not count as charging for the purpose of devastating charge. So they're basically like the old Knights Forlorn. With the same everything. They don't have great weapons, but okay, that'd be 18 points a model with that. Yeah, okay. Seems like the old Knights Fallen. They didn't used to be bodyguard, did they? I don't think so. Auto Wardens, so they lose ordeal. They gain honesty and they gain horizons. So they become a little bit like that core unit where they're able to hand out horizons. And they can take great weapons. I don't... Yeah, it's still probably pretty handy. Still probably... Both of those probably have their place in some lists if you want to take infantry. Sorry, excuse me. Went down the wrong hole. Okay, so Sacred Reliquary? Sacred Thing. Similar to before, it's an Horizon thing, it's a war platform, cool. It must be deployed in standard infantry, can never voluntarily leave it. Then the infantry gain fearless, fight an extra rank, minimize break tests, and if you're engaged in combat, at the start of every match phase, you're adding an Horizon token. Fearless, fight an extra rank. What did it give before? I feel like it gave fight an extra rank. I feel like it might give +1 armor save before. The problem is the fact that you're taking away... So, fight an extra rank means you're fighting in 3 ranks. So basically you're taking away 2, 4, 6. You're taking away 6 attacks at maybe a higher strength, and you're adding 4 to gain those bonuses. I don't know, that's worth it. Maybe in some builds it is, I don't know. Knights Resplendent. They're just knights. They've got dev charge, +1 advance and +1 attack. So they're basically charging 9 inches advance. And they'd have quite a few attacks on the charge with a lance. They kind of just seem like a little bit better, like, of the core guys. What are they called now? Feudal Knights. Yeah, they just seem like slightly better ones of those, so I don't know if you're spending your core on those guys, I don't know why you'd buy the Knights Resplendent. 50, 345. Yeah, I don't know. I guess movement 9 is pretty handy. You do have a lot more attacks. In retrospect. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. They just seem like a better version of the core knights. So maybe you would buy these guys if the list that you're writing makes sense. Knights Penitent, they're slow. They are unstable. Okay. And you can make the champion the raising thingo. Armor 3 and heavy armor means they got a 2-up save. They don't have any of the like courage or ordeal or anything, so I think they've just got a flat 6-up Aegis. They're 2 hit points each. So these are sort of like your anvil knights. Great weapon. Or like your grindy knights, perhaps. And a draft horse. Interesting. Okay, cool. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough how KOE works to know if they'll be useful, but they're an interesting concept. Knights of the Quest. We have got normal knights with 2 attacks. Bastard Sword. Cool. Courage. So 5+ Aegis against like AP 6, or I guess in this case AP 5. Still got the Knight Banneret. And the quest, immediately after deploying your first unit of Knights to the quest, you must choose one unit from the opponent's army book. Models of all units from this unit entry in the enemy army, even if there are more than one such unit, are considered marked for attacks allocated either towards marked models or towards models joined to units with more than half of their models marked. Questing Knights gain lethal strike and must re-roll failed to wound rolls. Yeah, so I guess basically you choose, if you're like, hey, I'm playing this Beast Herd guy and he's got a lot of Minotaurs. Well, my questing guys want to kill the Minotaurs. It makes you better at killing them. It seems pretty cool. It seems, I guess, like almost like an anti-spam mechanic, which is interesting. Because there's not many mechanics that are specifically like, oh, you took a lot of the same thing? Well, I'm going to fuck your shit up then. From what I've read, these guys are sort of like, in terms of the role in the army, they are like the old Grail Knights in that they're the most elite knights in the army. And with 2 attacks each, and with all these like good armor save with Bastard Swords, so strength 5 or strength 6 on the charge. No, they'd be the same. It gives you +1 strength, and I don't think +1 AP. So you wouldn't actually be higher than strength 5. So your re-rolling failed to wound rolls is probably going to be quite important. My gut tells me these guys might be a bit too specialized. Like, you only get to choose one unit entry, and you go, I have to send my knights to the quest at that. And unless it's like an elf, most of the important things you're gonna probably want better than strength 5. Sorry, there's just a weird noise in my kitchen. I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. I don't know what it was, but I thought I might have left my fridge open or something. But luckily it gave me a chance to get another beer. Okay. Fuck, where was I? Maybe too specialized. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think player warriors, they got double Feldrak Eldar. Even with reroll to wound, do you want to go into a Feldrak Elder with these guys? You would then run... No, if you want to get fight an extra fight an extra rank, you want to be 4 wide. You make them 10... Well, you probably wouldn't even fucking do that. They're 10 models, so you just go 3 wide. Because there's no point not. You go... That would give you 21 attacks. Hitting on 4s. Winning on 5s, re-rolling. Maybe with some magic buffs. I don't know. I don't know if these guys are good enough, to be honest. To me, they look too limited. I think these guys... It might come... Like, this is just an alpha book. So, there are going to be lots of changes to the book. But my gut kind of tells me that unless there are a lot of combos here and shit that I'm not seeing... Or maybe the army's being like carried by the characters. My gut tells me Knights of the Quest are not strong enough. I mean, they're still decent, I guess. There's a lot to like there. I just don't know if they fully fit the picture in my mind of like the best cavalry in the game, which is I think what they're meant to be. So I could see over the course of the LAB process them getting stronger, basically. Knights of the Court, they are bodyguard for anything sainted, or if your general has the normal, the normal, I think the one that he comes with. Oh, I guess like the Duke, feudal lord, comes with courage, I think. But I guess like a damsel wouldn't, so... Is a damsel not a leader? Did they used to be not a leader? I don't know these things. They're not. Okay. Okay, so that's fine. They've got a 3-up armor save and a lance. Joined by a model with sainted or a general with courage. The model's unit gains fearless. Cool. And there must be fewer than 3 models with sworn companions in the unit before hits can be distributed. So they have the ogre rule. So, if you've got characters in there, you can't, and you get the models, the Knights of the Court down to 4 models, you still can't start picking the characters out with, cannons or spells or whatever. They have to be less than 3, which is just the same rule as the UD Chariots and the Ogres. Those guys, I don't know. Bodyguard Knights, do you really want your Knights being charged by something that you're gonna need bodyguard against? I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna need bodyguard, you probably just instead want to take your Anvil Knights. Unstable hurts them. Okay. No, they've got unstable, so you can't join anything to them. So that's kind of important, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. I can kind of see it, but at the same time, so I don't know why you'd theoretically want him. There's so few wounds. I'd be very nervous on a bodyguard unit where I'm going to need my bodyguard to have so few wounds in the unit. Yes, they're highly armored and they've got a ward save, but I don't know, it feels like then a small swing where you're really relying on these guys to stick can just lose you the unit, then lose you the characters or whatever, so I don't know about that. Hedge Knights, they're still mounted guys. They're fearless, they're light troops, interesting. They've got a 3-up armor. They've got Dev Charge, Battle Focus, +2 Agility, -2 Defensive Skill. That seems like barely a trade-off. Lance Formation, Paired Weapons. So they're going to dish out, because you get an extra supporting rank, a supporting attack. They're probably going to dish out a lot, let's say you have 9, you still only got 18. I mean, relatively speaking to 9th Edge units with a lot of attack, that's not a lot of attacks. But they're going to kill elves. Pretty good. Which I like. So I like that unit because it'll kill elves. Yeoman Outriders, they're just the same peasant chaff, I think. They look the same to me. Hooded Men. Okay, so Scout, Skirmisher, Unstable. Unstable. That must be a theme of something. What else had it? Oh, only those guys. Interesting. I don't know why they had... Oh, was that Penitent? Unstable. Hooded Men almost sounds like criminals. Maybe there's something I'm missing about Unstable here, where it's maybe it's people start deserting. So the Knights Penitent, who have something to make up for, are sort of your questionably moral knights. And when things start to go wrong, they start to go no, we're getting out of here. So it's not so much they die as they desert, perhaps. Whereas these guys, enlisted outlaws, maybe this is sort of criminally type people who are less heroic KOE type fellas. Okay, enlisted outlaws. Gains ordeal, loses fearless and unstable. Maybe I'm wrong then, because if they're outlaw... and they can choose a terrain feature that becomes dangerous terrain for every... Oh, no longer dangerous terrain. So they go through and, sweep out the ruins, I guess. I don't know. And that counts for both enemy and terrain, and enemy and friendly. I don't know, it seems so the outlaw thing, which I was yes, that supports my theory. The fact that they lose unstable when they're enlisted outlaws means that I think my theory was wrong. So, I don't know why they would have unstable. Someone in background could probably answer that. They're just shooty guys who can help, if you give them enlisted outlaws, who can help your cavalry avoid DTs on some things. And you have to deploy in that terrain for them to get the brooms out to make it all neat and tidy for the boys coming later. Siege, you've just got Trebuchet and Scorpion. So Scorpion is the same. I think it was strength 7 before, and now it's strength 6. Still got D3 plus 1 and clipped wings, so it still has more multi-wound than the other bolt throwers in the game. Which is probably why it's more expensive. Trebuchet 3x8, strength 4. Fuck me. Okay, so you'd need 8 ranks though. I guess that's really like in terms of design decision, is almost like we're going to have trouble breaking big ranked up units. So we're going to have a good fucking tool to deal with them. Because it doesn't have a big hit either. So this Trebuchet is no longer like shooting your dragon out of the sky. That's what you use your Scorpion for. The Trebuchet is now for clearing out units. It costs 180 points. That seems like it's situational, but it's almost the sort of thing that you would take if your meta was giving you big ranked up blocks. Like, so even if it's not making it into like say someone takes KOE to the ETC and they're like, I play for Poland, I'm one of the best players in the world. I'm not going to take catapults because, my army is better without them, and most of my enemies, other than like Vermin Swarm, which we'll try and pair away from, won't be taking really long ranked units. But then, if you're playing locally, you might be like, look, there's 16 of us going to these regular one-dayers, 3 blokes that taken Vermin Swarm, 1 guy likes to play all goblins, another guy plays infantry beast herds. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's the sort of thing that, in lieu of a better use for the Trebuchet and the fact that you don't want to invalidate models, it could continue being a useful tool. Like, in terms of, even if it's underused, it's sort of like, there's a reason this is in the book. It's kind of nice to have it there for if the rest of the army does struggle with like ranked up blocks, you then sit there and you go like, okay, we've given you a specialized tool. Use the specialized tool if you're having trouble with that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I think interesting mode of fire that makes it different from other things, and I think it could be very interesting in the army and useful situationally. Pegasus Knights. I haven't been checking if gallantry's affected anything. Let me have a quick breeze through. Nope. It's not going to be on core, guys. Okay. So, flying things seemed like the gallantry boys. Pegasus Knights are 2 per unit. So, you take a Lord on a Pegasus, you take a unit of Pegasus Knights, you still got 3 gallantry points left. I feel like this will probably avoid spam. But you've still got a lot of room to move within gallantry. So you could still go, I'm going to take a unit of Peg Knights, I'm going to take a Lord on a Hippogriff, I'm going to take 2 of those folk heroes on a Heraldic Beast. That hits you at 6 gallantry points, and you're still like, cool. Probably don't need anything else. Whereas if you wanted to go like, cool, I want to take all the Pegasus I can, then it starts to come into your, like, stopping you from doing so. So the fact that the Pegasus and the Hippogriff are both 2 gallantry points each seems not that restrictive based on what we've seen in the context of the army. Because there's a lot of stuff there. Like, I mean, everything else in the book, we've got 5 pages to go. Everything else in the book might count towards gallantry, but even still, it's sort of like you've got a lot of options if you're not trying to spam flying things. So Peg Knights are now 3 hit points. They are a 2-up armor save, 6 up, Aegis or 5 up against not getting an armor save. Otherwise, they're just sort of... Oh, they got 2 attacks from the Rider. And they don't have... They do have Lance Formation, so... You need to be 3 or 4. Yeah, okay, so Lance Formation actually doesn't really matter for them. Because I thought if you didn't have to be 3 or 4 ranks wide... 4 models wide, you could just have like a dart of Pegasus Knights. But I don't think you can do that and still get your bonuses. So the ranks probably aren't going to matter, except in the fact that if you take 4... No, you still couldn't do that. Well, if you take 4 and you have 3 in the first rank and 1 in the second rank, your guy in the second rank is not losing an attack. So it's... Even if you take 5 and you chuck a character in there, like, you're getting your full attacks, which is cool. It's not super crucial to the unit, but it's cool that you don't lose output just by having models in the second rank where... No, but you wouldn't anyway, because you're large cav. I don't think it matters. I don't think Lance Formation affects the unit. Because your light troops, you don't get rank bonus anyway. So, I don't reckon there's a situation... Oh, better start pouring you quick, bro. I don't reckon there's a situation where Lance Formation comes up. It's probably just there as, like, consistency, like all our knight models have Lance Formation. That's what I suspect. But otherwise, yeah, they're just... I don't know if they used to have 2 attacks each, but they're very similar. They might have one more hit point now, but whatever. They're a very similar unit in how you're going to use them, regardless. They're probably a bit sturdier and a bit better now, which I think is cool, because it means that Peg Knights are a little bit more like how I view them in my head, where they're like a formidable unit. Sky Heralds. They look like they're Heraldic Beast Guides. Ah, they are. So hard target 1, 2 wounds, rest 3. They're peasants. Gallantry 1. Okay. Skirmisher van. So yeah, they're the Heraldic Steed without a character on top. I think they're not very expensive, but to me, I still look at the character and I think the character's better because the character's a single model on 40 by 40. Whereas these guys, like at best, you've got 80 by 80, 120 by 40, one of those 2 spaces, which is starting to get a bit big for the role that I envision, where you're sort of going vanguarding up, flying 14 inches into like pockets where the enemy can't see and starting to threaten flank charges or threaten their bunker on like from turn 2 sort of thing. I feel like the lone guys are probably better at that than these guys. So if you've got points in your characters, you'd probably send them there. And if you don't have points in your characters, you probably don't have the points left in your army to have luxury picks like that. So in my opinion, I don't think these guys are going to get used very often, because I think that they've got better options inside characters, and when you can't afford those options inside characters, you probably aren't spending your points on these guys. Faye. Okay. I just want to have a quick check if any of these guys count towards gallantry, or we're done with that. Okay. Okay, so we're done with gallantry, which means that I'm locking in my opinion that it stops spam, but realistically, if you're not trying to spam flying things, you're going to be fine on your list building, and you'll be able to do whatever you want. Which I think is good. Like, it means that you can take some flying things, and you're not restricted. I guess a points category would do similar thing. I don't know why they need the gallantry points rather than a points category. I don't know. Whatever. It seems like it'll work. Naiads. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's how I'm pronouncing it. They are a wizard conclave. And light troops. And they grind. Okay, so they're Strider Water and Scout. At least half of the models must be deployed fully inside water or the owner's deployment zone. Melee attacks that are flaming from enemy units engage with models, lose flaming attacks. So that's a really, really cool combination with Druidism, where these guys who they are beasts. They got Swift Stride. They got a 5-up ward. They're res 2. So part of me looks at that and goes, that works well because it means that your regen spell from Druidism is that much better. But the other part of me looks at it and goes, these are really easy points to kill in comparison to your Knights. So even when you're combo charging, it's almost sort of like you might just lose. Like, so if you've given your unit regen, it means that you're trying to protect your Knight unit from attacks coming in at it, which means that you're threatened by whatever is attacking you. But unless you're not worried about combat score and you're only worried about losing models, sending these guys in on anything other than like a corner clip is just going to lose you more wounds in the combat anyway. So I don't know that clause is actually going to be that valuable. So if I look at this unit, I'm going, cool, I've taken 5 of them. I have from them 10 Strength 3, AP 3 grinds. And I get nothing else very valuable. I get a very situational clause in melee. And I have to pay 120 points to make them a wizard. With Deceptive Glamour. Handy on Knights because of the Agi debuff. Healing Waters. Yeah, I mean, handy. Savage Fury, one of the least picked spells in Shamanism. I love it, but I don't expect these guys would pick it very often because most players don't pick Savage Fury. Scrying, good. So you get a decent Wizard Adept, in fairness. But then you're paying 300 points for laws that you can get elsewhere from your character section for cheaper. And what you're getting from that is a unit that I think 90% of it. So the other thing with this losing flaming attacks, the enemy has to have flaming attacks. So you've almost got to have a perfect storm where that is actually going to come in and be relevant. I don't think these guys work. I can't see anybody taking these guys because I think their combat support utility is way too situational, and all the spells they can bring you can get anyway, and realistically none of them are higher than adept level, so like you can pay less than 300 points and you can't get these combinations obviously because they're all 4 different laws, but like, would anyone be unhappy with Healing Waters and Summer Growth, or Deceptive Glamour and Twisted Effigy, or Raven's Wing, or rather than Savage Fury taking I guess actually Shamanism Adepts, they take Awaken the Beast, and then the other ones, if the enemy doesn't have shooting, maybe you do take Savage Fury if you don't want to. Yeah, whatever. I don't think this unit works. I reckon this unit will probably be redesigned by the end of the book. Friar's Lantern, a little torch running around. It's a flyer. It doesn't have gallantry. Insignificant, unstable, scout, hard target. 1. So these things do not fight. Must always flee, despite having fearless. Never shaken after passing a rally test, so it can always like jump back, like feign flight. And it doesn't prevent them from moving. Oh, because they're not light troops. Okay. They can perform a sweeping attack. Enemy unit suffers 1. Strength 1, IP 0. And if you've suffered that, you suck. You've got less advance, less march, and less pursue distance. But it doesn't affect the dwarves charging. A win for the short guys. That's weird. Oh, okay. So -2 pursuit distance. I look at that and I think that doesn't matter. You're literally saying, I'm going to fly over this unit, knowing they're going to charge me, knowing they're going to break me, but then hoping they'll be a little bit worse at catching me once they do. But that would actually affect random movers, which is interesting. So not likely to be handy very often, but in the instances where there are random movers who you're doing it to, could be good, because random movers are annoying. Okay. I don't think I'd ever take these, but I mean, I feel like I already generally, if I'm playing a KOA army, I generally have the advantage in terms of like advance rate and stuff. I don't reckon I'd ever take these, but maybe I'm undervaluing something here. Ladies Courtier. So fast, supernal, 5 hit points, res 5, with a 5-up armor and a 5-up Aegis, but a 4-up in melee. 4 attack strength, 5 AP 2, Agi 5. This is like a Green Knight type thing. It can be one of two things, so it can either have 7 attacks and fly and gallantry. Okay, so I missed that, but yeah, cool. It's a mini character. Model parts with harnessed, engaged in the... Yeah, with harnessed. Huh. Gain +1 to hit. That's very interesting. So that is affecting friend or foe and giving them +1 to hit. Now, if I look back, so this guy doesn't have harnessed. It don't fucking matter. Steed, Pegasus, kind of important on the draft horse. Yeah. So your Pegasus, your Hippogriff, and your draft horse. Those are the units that your +1 is actually like important on. But against enemies, that's like, hey, I've got a hunter mounted on a Rockarok. Thank you for the +1 to hit. Or I've got a guy mounted on a dragon. That's interesting. I think that's going to change, because that seems like a worse trade-off for the KOE player. I doubt that it wants to go in there and go, hey, like, I now can't fight your characters riding monsters. That sucks. I reckon that's going to get changed, because that seems like it's shit. Courtier of the Dusk, Wizard Adept, and you're using Druidism or Witchcraft. Cannot select the Hereditary. Cool. So another Witchcraft Adept available to the book. Casting value of spells that target the model and or any unit engaged in the same combat as the model, friend or foe, is reduced by 1. So interesting, both of these actually have like a trade-off where they can help your enemy. The first one, I think, doesn't work well enough. But this one is an interesting trade-off where it's like, I send this guy in, my opponent can actually buff his units or debuff mine more easily. But I think that's cool. So while the Courtier of the Dawn, I'm like, I like +3 attack. I like getting like a character outside my character section. That's a single model. That's cool. That's strong. Particularly in this book where it's like, KOE should have the ability to basically be like, they don't even have monsters, but like heroic single models is one of the things that I think this book is absolutely like deserving of. So that's cool. Giving it fly is cool. I think this clause needs some work. But the Courtier of the Dusk, making it a wizard is like, yeah, okay, cool. But I'm going to change spellcasting effects. That's interesting. I like that a lot. I think that's real cool. Would cost you 435 points. But I think it's a fairly resilient model that you can heal. It's a large beast, so you're able to heal with summer growth either 2 or 3 wounds on him. I reckon pretty nifty. I'd be giving this model a try for sure. Is this the last unit? I think it is, yeah. So last unit, we're up to the Fey Knight, who has Advance 8 and March 16, Ghost Step, that's cool. Less useful on a single model than on a unit like Banneret Knights, but whatever. 4 hit points, a 3 up armor, 5 up Aegis. The rider has... Actually, this is more of the Green Knight than the previous guy, but similar sort of concept. So 4 strength, 5 AP 3, 2 strength, 4 AP 1. Bound to the land. Isn't this meant to be somewhere up here? I feel like... Let me... No, maybe... Oh, no, because you choose it there. Hang on. So, like here, we've got new special rules applying to this unit. Illusions. And here's what Illusions does. Lights of the Mist. Here's what Lights of the Mist... Oh, sorry. Lights of the Mist here. Here's what Lights of the Mist does. Whereas, on the Fey Knight, you go, hey, they're bound to the land. That's what this does. And I go, as the opponent, I don't give a fuck. You don't have it. It's not on your profile. You don't have bound to the land. I don't care what it says beneath you. I think that's a mistake. I think that has to be up here. In the global, because it's a universal rule. The model follows the rules for ambush. Sorry, immediately after step 2, including the owner's player, turn 1, they're meant to decide if they will enter, so it's like the Briar Beast. When it enters, it must be completely within whatever terrain you've picked. So it looks like you're picking a terrain piece. Instead of the... So basically, this is just like a Briar Beast activation. But with a much better model. Must choose Field and Stone or Stream and Springs. Okay, so Field and Stone means that you can only pop up in fields. And you gain large flail. So, hand weapon, attacks with weapon, ignore parry. In addition, the wieldless attacks gain +1 attack value for each enemy model in base contact with it. So you've got 4. And you might be in contact, you're 50 wide, yeah. You might be in contact with 3 or 4 models. Giving you 7 attacks. Strength 5. That's pretty cool. Seems pretty good to me. So it follows the rules for ambush as well. So even though it has to ambush in a field if you ambush it, if you have rocked up to the table and there's no field, you can just go like, I won't ambush him. Is at least my reading of that. Stream and Springs gains a Bastard Sword, so you'd be strength 6. Let me just zoom straight up again. Bastard Sword. +1 strength. See, so not AP. Okay. Get back. So you'd be strength 6, AP 3. Cool. You pop up in water. You gain Aegis +1 in melee. That's pretty cool. And Stubborn. In addition, it counts as a champion. You must issue an accept. This cannot be prevented by issuing... Okay. That's sick. This is a sick model. You know what? I think the Naiads and the Friar's Lantern really missed the mark in Fae. But my favourite things so far have been these 2 other ones. And they're one of a kind. Oh, no, they're not. One of a kind single model. How many can I take? As many as I want, does that mean? I think that's what that means. Let me see if there's another unit in the book like that. Let's go to core. Yeah, okay, so it's not capped. So, if I have 20% of my army counting towards Fae, 4,500 times 0.2, and 350... so it's 900 points, so there's actually no way you could fit more than 2 in at a 4,500 point game. Yeah, so I would take one of these, and I would take one of these, and I'd go... I'll build around that. If I'm taking these, I've got a large beast that's a single model. I've got a large cavalry that's a single model. I am 100% taking Druidism, and I'm using Summer Growth on these guys. Because that's... I'll probably... maybe, depending on what combos you've got, maybe a Pegasus over a Hippogriff. Because the Hippogriff has Towering Presence. So the Pegasus is still getting 2 or 3 wounds back every time you cast Summer Growth. Does the Autos Minister... That affects your own unit, I think. Where are we? The model's unit or a model inside it. Yes, that doesn't help. So... Yeah, okay. So my first look at this is I'm like... I think these are the... Not only... I don't know about... Like, I haven't looked at this enough to think about what I think is the strongest list. But what I would be looking at as my first sort of... My first idea that I would explore when writing a list, which may not work because of points, and I may like look at it and go like, actually this combo kind of sucks, I don't have enough stuff. But I would go, cool, I'm going to run this guy, I'm going to run Courtier of the Dusk, and take... I'm going to run a Damsel of Druidism, so I'll run Witchcraft. I'll take a Fey Knight. I'm going to give him Stream and Springs, because I think that's better, particularly with Supernal. Yes. The extra attacks are nice, but I think I would take Stream and Springs. Let me do this very quickly, very roughly. So that's 430 points. That's 350. So we got 780 so far. I'm going to run up here. And I'm going to go, well, I want a Damsel. So 115. 265 for Wizard Master. And I'm probably going to want to put her in a unit. So we're just going to chuck her on a Destria for now. So that's 1210 total so far. And then I think, based on the fact that I've already got those 2 single models, I am going to go 2 Folk Heroes and a Heraldic Steed. So plus 125 times 2. I probably will give them both. But these are all one of a kind. The Knightly Principles. Hey. What's your... It's only Discipline 8, so you don't help the stubborn Fey guy I've got. Doesn't help me. It's a shame that I have to choose 2 of these. So I'll give one of them probably Troubadour. One of them probably Castellan. Let's say 65. And then... I probably want to save that for a character. Really, none of these are really jumping out to me. Maybe it's actually not that handy. So, you know what, maybe I don't run 2 of these guys on a Heraldic Steed. Because none of those combos are jumping out to me as super good. I'd probably look at an Equitaine Lord or 2. Hey, you can get a unicorn. I didn't notice that. Yeah, I'd probably look at one of them or 2 on a Pegasus, a unicorn. Probably not a unicorn in actual fact. It's a cool like visual in my head, but the rules are average. Probably on a Pegasus. Wait, you can get Fey Steed? Is that the thing? No, we're talking about Heraldic Steed. The Fey Steed. I definitely consider that. Again, I'm looking at this and I'm going, it doesn't have Towering Presence where the Hippogriff does. So, Fly is really, really handy. But I could see sometimes where I want like the extra wound. I could take one of both, the extra Aegis, the extra wound, and a breath weapon. Could see one of both. But my first attempt at a list would be with those 2 Fey strong single models, a Druidism Master, and then, because I think from the combos I've seen, these guys aren't that great on a Heraldic Steed. Probably 2 of these guys running around in single models, and basically one of the main things I'm trying to do is I'm going to go, if you're going to do wounds to them, I'm going to heal them up with Summer Growth. And if you want to stop Summer Growth, you'll let through like Stone Skin or something. when I charge. Yeah, that's basically it. So I don't think my first list would be super involved with Horizons. Nah, I mean, you've still got... I've spent like 750 points in Special. So that probably sounds really sus if you're hearing that on the microphone. I'm scraping my toe against against my desk, and it's making a very suspicious sound. So I think even if I max my characters at like 2,500 points I've spent, I've still got 2,000 points. I guess that 1,200 and 800, so 1,200 core, 800 outside. So it'd still be a lot of room for doing it with other things. Or doing like Horizon with other things, I should say. It's interesting. I think overall the book is really cool. Like, I don't know. It feels very KOE to me, whereas the previous, like the Slim book felt very bland. Like there's not that much actually going on. You can do some cool stuff, but basically it's like, I'm taking knights. Some of the knights are a little bit more interesting than the other ones. Whereas this one, it's like, hey, my knights are actually distinct. Where I think one thing that'll be kind of important, it's because of how different the units are. You're, like, KoE players are going to have to not just have a unit that's fucking all different colors and all their units look the fucking same. Because all their units are going to actually be different in their battlefield role now. So if you have an army that looks like the old KoE book, or like looks like sort of an old GW Bretonia army, which is what a lot of people have for their KoE armies, your opponent's going to be sitting there and you're going to get 1,000 questions every turn. Some of these guys have 2 attacks, I don't really give a fuck. Like, doesn't affect me. But with how different a lot of them are, now it might be more valuable. Or more important that the units look distinct on the table. But yeah, I think it's a really cool book overall, basically. In terms of my first... I don't remember my Demons or my Warriors' first impressions. But if I compare it to ID, Vermin Swarm, and DE, I think it seems more flavorful than Dread Elves. But I think it hits that same thing where the vibe that I get from it and the rules and stuff are very appropriate to the army. ID, I still think, even the first thing that everybody said was like the first iteration of it, where everyone said it was too complicated, I still think it was so fucking sick. I read that first iteration and I was like, this is an army, like, this is a fiery, shooty, monster-filled army. Like, I thought that they did a really, really good job on that book. I think they've still done a really good job on it. It's one of my favorite books in 9th. I don't have any desire to play it. I'm happy to play against it. I love the ID book. I think it's excellent. Vermin Swarm is super fucking complicated. For obvious reasons, because they're trying to make like big blocks of shit work, which is not something that should work in, like, that generally works in 9th, I should say. But in terms of my first impressions, Vermin Swarm definitely at the bottom. I'd say Dread Elves now are third. KoE is going to sit second, just behind ID in my first impressions of the army. However, that's more me looking at it going like, does this seem cool? Does it seem interesting? Whereas, in terms of playing against it, I think even if it's a small part of the game, I'm just going to get the shits with Horizons. I'm just going to sit there and be like, fucking, how come you get to decide this whatever you want? Like, why is this fair? I'd be happy if it was like stronger and the start of either player turn. I'd be like, that is something I'm perfectly happy with. But the start of any phase, I'm like, it's just going to shit me. But apart from that, I think that overall the book is really, really good. Really, really well done. There's going to be some broken shit. Like, within 2 weeks, you're going to have people who have found some really broken shit in here. But you can't find that when you're designing stuff. Like, that's what takes a lot of eyes on something, and generally, some really strong players' eyes. It's the sort of thing where, like, you know, if I was talking to Bobo, and I was like, oh, so I'm sort of, like, I'm looking at these things in the KOE book, he would hear what I'm saying and go like, okay, I hadn't noticed that, but now what you're saying is your idea is shit, but the ideas you've given me, I can turn into really good ideas, which I think happens a lot where, like, you get into discussions about the game, and really strong players may not have noticed everything that you've noticed, because that's where, like, many eyes are important, but what it does change is, like, you'll give them ideas, and they'll be like, okay, like, your list was bad, but some of these ideas are actually broken, and I'm going to steal those ideas and make a good list with it. And I think that'll happen. There'll be broken shit, and this book will be strong. If the tournament that I am hopefully going to in January, I'm pretty confident it's going to be cancelled. I'm pretty sure Australia's going to go back to lockdown, and it's just going to be a fucking thing. But if it goes ahead, I'm pretty sure there's going to be at least one broken KOE army there. But that'll happen, and I think they've done a really, really excellent job with the book, where some of the questionable designs, so if they find Horizons to be too powerful, they can go, alright, we're going to have less Horizons in the army, we're going to make the effects less powerful, we're going to change the order of activation. Or they could go the opposite way and go, like, these aren't powerful enough, we're going to soup them up. They can go, hey, some of these lists are actually too strong, they've got too many strong flying models, we're going to decrease the amount of gallantry that's allowed. And just in general, I feel like those two things will be... I mean, I don't know why gallantry points are better than a percentage system, but I'm sure they've got a good reason for it. But those two things, I think, are going to go up and down a little bit as they sort of try and figure out the balance on them. And then I think a lot of the designs are really solid, though. So I did question, I think, the Knights Penison or the Knights the Court. I don't know if both of them will be necessary or whatever. I think the only thing that stands out to me as, like, don't know about these guys, is the Naiads and the Friar's Lantern as, like, I can't see a reason why I would ever take either of these, basically. But everything else, I think, with some tweaks, if it's not working, with some points decreases if it's not being chosen, or points increases if it's clearly too strong. I think everything's really good. I think it's a really, really solid foundation to build off, and I reckon they've done an excellent job. And it'll be interesting to see what other people think, and more importantly to me, what lists other people write. Because once I start seeing other people's lists, I'll be able to go like, oh shit, yeah, fuck, that combo is so good. I think there was something noticed somewhere. Is there something that gives +1 Aegis without a cap? Maybe that was already changed. I think someone noticed something and maybe... Don't think it was that. I don't know. None of these give +1 Aegis. No, I don't know where it is then. And maybe it's already been fixed. But there was something where I'm pretty sure you could get a 3-up Aegis on like an Equitaine Lord. Just like flat with some kind of upgrades, which was a bit sort of like, ooh. But I think that being seen in the spoilers led to it being changed in the final book. Or I've just missed the combination. But there'll be shit like that where I'm like, oh. Particularly in like characters, you're like, oh shit, like that is a really strong combo. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see what lists other people bring out. I've been ranting for an hour and a half now. Not really ranting, just sort of hanging out, I guess, really. But I feel like I'm doing all the talking, guys, which is a bit rude. That's probably enough. This will take a long time for me to upload as it is. So I am going to stop it, and I will see you, I don't know when. My next video will probably be... I've got another video planned, which is basically a list review and just sort of looking at the results of the Smith F tournament, but that has to finish for me to do that. And I think me and Kev are the only ones who've played our games this round. So I don't know when the other games are happening, but whenever that finishes, I'll record that video and I'll do that. Some point in the semi-near future. Sorry, excuse me. Next Saturday is New Year's Day. Bobo and I are trying to line up a Saturday to do like a... I mean, really we're just going to hang out, but record like a vodcast, which I won't talk too much about because we'll figure out the details, but maybe that's upcoming. I don't have that many battle reports coming up, to be honest. So I've got my event in January, hopefully. But other than that, I'm a little bit tapped out of online events. I don't want to do the like Australia/New Zealand ones for some reasons, but I am still tempted to do the like US ones that are basically just the international ones. The problem with them is the getting up early or the staying up really late, and when you have to plan a weekend, sometimes it can really fuck with your other plans that you want to do, which often isn't a problem for me, honestly, because I'm a pretty stay-at-home kind of guy. If we're in lockdown, I'll be like, fuck yeah, I'm keen for them again, because we can't do anything else. But I don't really have anything really lined up. Like, if I'm not playing in an online event, and we're not running a physical event, I'm going to have to find some other shit to do. There's a few ideas that have come around. I do have a plan to go through, once the yearly update hits, the Beast Herd book with another guy. So that'll be at least fun for me, because I fucking love Beast Herds. Hopefully it's also fun for him and interesting for you, but I'll enjoy it regardless. Other than that, I don't have that many plans. I think there were a couple of suggestions on my last, or the video before that, of what we could do, and I might just go to them. I got a few suggestions basically, but the problem with suggestions is that even if the suggestion is good, I need to have something interesting to say. So even a good suggestion, sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's great. I don't really have anything to talk about on that one though, so there's no content there. So we'll see what happens. I'm not really sure what is up with the channel in the future, but I mean, stay tuned and we'll figure shit out. Anyway, guys, catch ya.